What's up? I'm Jeff and welcome back to the backyard. I've got Ethan and Calvin with me, and I'm sure that they would agree that it's every little boy's dream to have a go-kart. But go-karts can be expensive and actually quite dangerous. Even pedal cars can be quite pricey. So today we're going to try to build, for less, a gravity-powered push cart. So stay tuned. So our goal is going to be to try to make this as cheap as possible, and we're actually basing our design off of the plans in the Dangerous Book for Boys. This is plans for a basic gravity-powered cart that you can build with pretty much stuff you find out of a dumpster. But to try to upgrade this into the ultimate backyard downhill machine, we're gonna upgrade the design in the book in a few key areas to make this a little bit safer and a little bit more fun. So let's get building. Yeah! The boards are all cut. This was actually the first piece of lumber somehow that I've had to buy since the pandemic inflated lumber prices, and spending $9 on a 2x6 was a little bit nerve-wracking. I wanted to make sure I got all the cuts right. Everything looks good. Let's sand this stuff down real quick. So each of the axles is going to be attached to the bottom of one of these boards. So we got these axles, they're 3 feet long, they're gonna have to be cut down to length. It's gonna have to be long enough sticking out each side for one of these wheels on both sides, plus the nuts. We got a box full of nuts for this 5/8 inch rod. And then in the electrical section of your Lowe's or Home Depot, you can find these things. These are little conduit clamps we're gonna put on like this, screw them in at either end. I don't know if that's gonna be strong enough to deal with the bumps of going out long off-road. So I made these little pieces like this, kind of sandwich the axle in there so that it can't go anywhere, it'll be in there strong, and these clamps will basically just be to keep it from falling directly off. We got the first axle board complete, and the axle's still able to slide out, but it's pretty firm in there, which is good. And somehow in the process, Calvin lost his shirt. I don't know what happened there. But now that that's done, we've got to do the same thing for the front, but I just ran into a problem. I realized that part of our steering mechanism, this board's gonna be in the way of. Do you have any idea how we could fix that, Cal? So we gotta take this, and then say, abracadabra.
Abracadabra.
Ta-da! So on the other one, we're gonna have to do 2 shorter ones so that there's a gap. So let's get started on the second one. So now this piece is done. You guys were a lot of help. Yeah. Calvin's taking a shower and he's still not wearing a shirt. Yeah! Yeah! This is the back axle assembly here, and I've pre-drilled the holes here to screw these boards. This is where you're gonna sit. And then this is going to be the main part that holds onto the front piece. This is going to be attached with this carriage bolt down through. But I think we're going to put these screws in here, attach this together, and then that should be the bulk of the woodworking part of it. But then tomorrow afternoon, we're going to try to get into the whole wheel axle assembly and attaching the front on. Before we get to putting the axles together, we needed to drill the holes for where it's going to steer. And this carriage bolt is going to go through the holes. Then I have these aluminum pieces attached there. My hope is that with a little bit of wax on it, will make this slide a little bit easier and help it rotate. This is soft aluminum, so it's easy to work with, easy to cut, but it's also going to be easy to get scratched up. We'll see how that goes. Second bolt. So our turning mechanism kind of works. It's hard to tell exactly until we're actually using it. Let's get to putting the axles together. We're going to start off at one end of the axle. We're going to double up all of our nuts. That way we can tighten them against each other, and that should lock them pretty solidly in place. What would go next, guys? What would go next? A wheel?
Yeah, I think a wheel. It has to be a wheel.
2 more nuts on our way down. My plan is to just kind of build this whole thing, and then we'll have to trim it at the end. Now we gotta wind this all the way down. Oh, there we go, teamwork. Okay. We want to get that one right about there where it starts to touch, but the wheel can still freely spin. Slide that down through. Come on. There we go. All right. Now we're gonna do the other wheel up here, and then we'll know where we have to trim it off. The axle assemblies are all good now. We need to trim off the axles here, but it's raining outside. I want to do that outside because it's going to make a lot of sparks when I'm going to do it with my Dremel, because that's really the best thing I have. We're going to have to wait till tomorrow to do that. I've gotten most of the way through, but I wore down my grinder disc, so we need a plan B. Nope. Right now, the thing to do would be to go buy an angle grinder, but I'm cheap, so I'm gonna spend the next hour probably trying to file through this. Get it. That took about 10 to 15 minutes to cut through a 5/8 inch rod with a file. So if you got to do multiple of them, I would definitely pick up an angle grinder. You like that, honey?
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about cost for a second. All told, I spent about $35 on the wheels at Harbor Freight, and then I spent about $55 at Lowe's for the rest of the lumber, plus a few little odds and ends that I collected from my workshop. This is probably just about $100 for this build. But the real question is, does it work? All right, ready?
Here we go!
Oh, oh no. Oh, oh. Do you think it'd be easier to steer if it had reins, like a sled?
Yeah.
They seem incapable of steering it. I'm not sure yet if that's a design flaw or your user error. Push. Let go.
Let go. What is that?
So if I can do it, we know that it's possible. They just have to figure it out. We also added this backrest to give you something to put your back against, as well as these footrests, just to kind of give you a little bit more traction for your feet. They also kind of look like gas pedals. And then we added this double rope. It should be easier to pull it the way you want it that way. All right, let's head up the hill.
Don't die.
So this being version 1, it shows potential. It still has its kinks we've got to work out, but I think we've proved that it's definitely possible to try to build something. Even though it might not be as good as something you bought at the store, you still got to have that time with your kids to work together towards a project and kind of figure out these things as a team. And that is priceless. And as I said at the beginning, the basic design for this gravity cart we got from the Dangerous Book for Boys. If you want to hear more about that, click on this video up here. Until next time, get out there and have a fun-sized adventure.
Of your own.
Yeah.